That's good. How's everybody feeling? Good. You know, I have always felt like I was a fairly generous person, and always analyzing why I'm like I am or why I do what I do, and I've been doing that now for many, many years. My mind went back to the time I was a little kid. I would be maybe 12, 13, and this was just around the end of the Second World War. It was very cold in Toronto this particular winter. And we heated houses with furnaces, with coal. And there were some kids in my class at school, Hillborns. They were very poor, and they had no coal. So their furnace, of course, went out, and they were really cold. They lived on the next street to us. My mother didn't know them, and she was trying to raise three of us on her own, earning very, very minimal wage. So she was always struggling, and we told her, we got talking at home about Hillborns being really cold. They had no furnace, the fire, or no coal. And she went away, and she come back with a $20 bill and sent me to the corner to get 2 10s. And then she gave us the $10. She gave me $10 and told me to take it over to them to buy a ton of coal. That had to be many, many years ago. But I can see it the same as if it was today. And I think that kind of behavior thinking was instilled in myself, my brother and sister, when we were just very small children. But then here, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, time goes so fast, I met a lady and became very good friends with her, and she really has taught me how to give. She's without question one of the most giving people I've ever met, and she does a phenomenal job and has inspired thousands and thousands of people to follow in her tracks. So I want you to listen really carefully to this lady because she is special. She's one of those people that you only run into every now and then, and her whole focus is on helping people who are less fortunate. She's the originator, she's the founder of the Unstoppable Foundation. She wrote the book Unstoppable, and I guess in writing that book, it got her into doing what she does with the Unstoppable Foundation. So I'm going to ask you to stand up and put your hands together for Cynthia Kersey.
Thank you. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Bob Proctor says I'm special. That makes me happy. Anyway, it was in 2000. My first seminar with Bob Proctor was Science of Getting Rich in 2000. And knowing him and this information has completely changed my life. And he was talking about a birthday party where I charged birthday party. Well, it actually happened as a result of a promise that I made to some women. My second book came out in 2005, Unstoppable Women, and I was looking for my next philanthropic project. I'd always integrated giving in my business. And I received an invitation to attend a conference for women in East Africa. It was a rural African women conference. I didn't know anybody at that conference. I knew the promoter That was it. And the only thing I knew about that conference was that women were coming to share their stories. That's it. So as Bob talks about that intuitive factor, have you guys ever had a feeling like, I need to do this, even though it doesn't even make sense? Well, that's what happened to me. So I felt like I had to go. So I booked my flight. I rearranged my schedule. I flew over to Kenya, and I was greeted with these women, 400 women from East Africa. Many of them walked days. Most of them had never even left their village. And yet they came to meet with us, 40 women from North America. And they came for a really important reason. And for 5 days, I sat there listening to story after story. The first woman got up and said, we have no health care in our entire area. The closest health care facility, which is very meager, was 25 miles away from their village. They had no cars. They had to walk. And so her daughter got sick. And so she had to carry her on her back to this healthcare facility. And before she got there, her little girl died. She had malaria. And then the next woman would go up there and talk about, how do we get clean water? Without clean water, 1 in 5 children in their entire area was dying from waterborne illnesses. And, the next person was talking about food. How do we preserve our food? And the number one wish, the number one hope was, how do we get our kids an education? Because without it, nothing would change. So as I'm boarding the bus after 5 days of listening to this story, well, first off, let me just tell you my experience. As I was hearing these stories in the beginning, I felt great compassion. And by the time it was over, I was pissed off. Do you hear what I'm saying? How is it okay that just by virtue of where you're born determines that you're going to be focused on, how do I get my child health care? They're not in rooms like this yet, right? So I thought, wow, how is that okay? And as I was getting on the bus to leave, they came up to me, and we had an interpreter, and they're like, pleading. What are they saying? He said, they're saying, please don't forget us. I'm like, wow, what can I do? I mean, seriously. This is a really big problem. And who was I? But I made them a promise. I had no idea how I would do it at all. It felt way bigger than me, but I said I would do something. And a few months later, I was at Debbie Ford's house, and she was telling me about her son for his bar mitzvah. Instead of asking for gifts, he asked people to donate money to build a school in Uganda. And as she's talking to me about this, I was on her couch, I sat up, and I thought, that's it. I had my 50th birthday was coming up. This is almost 8 years ago. And I thought, that's what I'm going to do for my birthday. Because, before turning 50, I actually felt, believe it or not, a little depressed about turning 50. Like, that's a real first world problem, right? But now I'm turning 50, and I'm going to have a party, and I'm going to invite my friends, many of the people here in this room, Liz, Rochelle, who else was here? Bob, Mary Morrissey. They all came. And I charged them $100 to come, and then I asked them for more money that night. I learned it from Bob. And we raised $80,000 that night. And and it helped fund 2 schools. And I thought, wow, this wasn't even that hard. right? What can I do if I actually put my mind to it? So I went home and I got really serious. And I started doing some research and I found out something that shocked me. There are great organizations that are building schools around the world, and a few years later, they're empty. Why are they empty? Because you can build a school, but if you don't provide access to clean water, first off, the girls are spending their day fetching it on their back. They're not in school, and kids are sick, right? You can build a school, but if you don't provide a nutritious meal, imagine your children going to school and have nothing to eat all day. Can they really be open to learning? Of course not. So you have to provide that. You can build a school, but if you're not providing access to health care, kids aren't in school half of the time. They're sick. And you can build a school, but if you don't provide parents with the ability to earn an income, the kids have to help. So I got an idea. I thought, that's it. We just can't build schools. We need to provide them with access to health care, clean water and sanitation, agriculture, nutritious food, and training for the parents. So I thought, this is it. This is the epiphany. So I started looking and found a partner exactly that, provides those 5 pillars. And we worked together and created a model that we call Sponsor a Village. And what we do is we go into these communities. Our partners are on the ground doing all the implementation, providing education, curriculum, clean water facilities, workshops on how to, work with sanitation, food and nutrition. They get a nutritious meal every single day. They've got a garden at the school that the entire community can draw from. And the parents are taught to generate an income so it's self-sustaining. So since that birthday party, we have helped fund, with Procter Gallagher Institute's partnership, and to many people in this room. How many people are supporters of the Unstoppable Foundation in this room? Wow. Thank you. This is what you helped to make possible. We've got 13 communities in Kenya who have all of these services. Over 8,000 students every day are going to school. Over 80 primary schoolhouses have been implemented, 2 high schools, and over 31,000 men, women, and children have the basic care that they need to lift themselves out of poverty. And this is our promise. We're not going to leave, ever. Our foundation is committed to education for every child. And it's through this 5-pillar model. So we've promised the children in Kenya we are not going to leave until every girl and boy, every family has these services. And we also realize it's all available to us, right? So we want to continue to expand our ability to make a difference. So Blaine and I, over the holidays, over Christmas, we were invited to go to India. And we saw a community, they're ready to go. It's like the country director, to get the permits from the officials, he had to camp out and refuse to leave until the officials saw him and gave him a permit. And I'm thinking, that takes real commitment. I have the easy part, right? All we have to do is come up with the funding to help support this. So we made a decision. We met those kids. We met with the country director, and we're like, we're supporting you with this 5-pillar in India. So we're now expanding. We're still in Kenya, but we're also have a new community, K through 9, and all of the 5 pillars are going to go to these children and families in India. Secondly, we have all of these girls that just graduated, right? We've helped fund 2 schools. So now what? Or 2 high schools. So what they're doing is our partners are building a college. And we as an organization have stepped up. It's called Kisaruni College. We are funding every one of those girls and boys from the area to get a college education. I mean, imagine that. There is no college in the entire region. This is the learn how to be nurses, how to run a business, agricultural tracks, hospitality, things that really are pertinent to their area. But we're doing something else. We are providing, it's like we've been building to this. We're not only now able to deliver the basic services to help them lift themselves out of poverty, but we're now providing an empowerment program starting at the college to learn the information, to bring this information to Kenya. Transformation, awareness. So we're bringing a leadership empowerment training. So every unstoppable scholar will graduate understanding how you think into results. Seriously. Understanding the great power that is within them, that is not available anywhere. Then we're taking this information, think into results, or the programs that Bob and Sandy have created, and we're bringing it to our high schools in this region. And then we're going to bring it to every single primary school. Imagine what this information is going to do to this entire region. We are helping leaders to be born, leaders who can go back and imagine what would be possible when you have this awareness and this consciousness. So that's what PGI and every single person that supports the Unstoppable Foundation is supporting. Additionally, Bob mentioned this, we're bringing our program locally. How many people have heard of We Day? Okay. So We Day, our partners, Free the Children, have a program called We Day. The very first one, I took Bob's grandson, Danny, to We Day in Toronto. We Day is really the culmination of a year-long program where young people are taught how to be global citizens. It's not the me generation, it's the we generation. So they're taught leadership skills. They're taught how do they make a difference. To get a ticket to We Day, you can't buy a ticket to We Day. You have to earn a ticket to We Day. And the way you earn it is through an active local and global service. So what we're doing is they're coming to LA, April the 7th. So I thought this is a perfect time for us to partner together. So not only are we going to help sponsor local schools with this curriculum, this We curriculum, but we're also going to give them the tools, this awareness tools, that you're getting a taste of. They're going to, this weekend. So now our LA schools are going to get this training, plus become global citizens. And our children around the world are going to be getting that as well. How fantastic is that? Mm-hmm. So, our biggest event every year is called the Unstoppable Gala. How many of you have gone to the gala? Oh, wow, this is a big opportunity. Awesome. So basically, it started at my birthday. And it just grew and grew and grew, and now it's a big thing. We have about 650 people who attended last year. That's the maximum we can have again this year. Martin Sheen, we have celebrities that come. We've got entertainers. We've got NFL players. We have people, Jack Canfield calls it the Oscars of the personal development industry. So all the leaders are there. So imagine a room of people who are committed to making a difference in the lives of these children, because that really is what it's all about. So this year, it's March the 19th. We passed out a card in Los Angeles. And every year we honor an individual who really embodies what our work is all about. and we call it the Unstoppable Achievement Award. Last year, Warren Moon, the NFL Hall of Famer, he has a foundation. He's done a lot of work to move education forward globally and domestically. The year before that, Malala Yousafzai. Do you know who Malala is? The girl who won the Nobel Peace Prize. She was shot by the Taliban for standing up for the right for every girl to go to school. And the year prior to that, Dr. Tara Trent. So this year we were thinking, we're still going to do our Unstoppable Achievement Award, but we want to do an Unstoppable Legacy Award. Because what we want to do is we want to find people who not only embody our message, but embody the consciousness of giving. And I don't know anybody, I know one person, everybody came up with the same person. When you think of that description, who do you think of? Bob Proctor. That's right. So Bob has generously agreed to allow us to honor him. Thank you, Bob. Yes, thank you, Bob. Because Bob doesn't do it for, I mean, if you guys know Bob, he doesn't do it for this reason. He does it because he loves to give. So we're excited to be able to honor Bob that night as not only someone who has been with this foundation and really with me from the very beginning, but who really brings the consciousness to inspire all of us to make a bigger difference, to give more, to contribute in a deeper level. So, what we're going to do here today, I wanted to give everybody an opportunity to participate in the Unstoppable Gala. So we have a card here. And basically, we have, before everybody else is getting them online, we have an opportunity to reserve tables for Proctor Gallagher students, the Matrix students, etc. And I want to invite you to come. So it's in Los Angeles, and you can look on the back and the information about the tickets. Tables available, tickets. And there's a general admission. Anybody in Signs of Getting Rich, I'm sure, is going to be at the VIP, right? But basically, our commitment is that night, we want to take another community off the waiting list, right? We funded 13 communities. We want to do the 14th. So your support for this event gives us the resources to be able to continue the work that we're doing. So 100% of the money that you donate towards this ticket goes for the expansion of our work. So I want to invite you. I know Proctor Gallagher, their company's coming. We have an amazing lineup that's going to be there that weekend. And I'm committed to having a room filled with people like you who, when you bring your heart, your resources, your love, that we truly can transform not only these generations and these children and communities, but we can transform the world together. So what we're going to do, if you could fill this out, and it's really first come, first serve. If you get the $500 ticket, we're going to put you in the VIP tables for Proctor Gallagher Institute. And basically, I think that the volunteers will be available when you fill it out to hand it to them, and then we will register you. You'll get an email, and we look forward to seeing you that evening as we continue to bring these 5 pillars and also this training to really generations that can change the world. So, any questions? Thank you. Oh, yes. No, not yet. Kenya and India right now. Okay, so everybody please take a moment to fill out your card. And where are the volunteers where they can turn these cards into?
We'll be right over here.
Okay, right over there.
On the way up.
Yes? Oh, good point. Thank you so much. If you already know that you're not going to be able to attend the gala, you can make a donation. So literally when you're filling this out, just say donation only, and we'll know that you're using your money to donate to the work of the Unstoppable Foundation. Thank you so much. All right? Thank you.
Everybody give Cynthia a big hand. Give her a big hand, you guys. Thank you. I was back there watching Cynthia and listening to her, and I get so emotional about it. I went to Africa, gosh, 3 years ago? Was it 3 years ago? And to see the impact, how far the money goes, is pretty amazing. And we are so proud to partner with Cynthia and the Unstoppable. And I'm equally proud that Bob is going to be honored at this. You know, that took quite a fight. I'm serious. He does not like being recognized. He doesn't care about to give, and we, you know, had to just like insist on it. And so it's going to be a really, really special night. And our entire staff, the Proctor Gallagher Institute team, is invited to come, and we would love to have you there with us honoring Bob. So if you have any interest at all, sign up for this. It's a fun night. I mean, it truly is. It's like the Oscars of personal development. You get all dressed up like black tie, and it's really cool, and meet neat people and go down the red carpet, and it's pretty cool. But we're going to be honoring Bob, and that's going to be awesome. All right? Now, we're into the last session, and I'm going to bring up Bob, teach some more. Here we go. Give Bob a big hand.
Okay. Thank you. And Cynthia, thank you. She has done an absolutely phenomenal job from that birthday party that she had to the foundation that she has built. It's just really something watching it grow and take form. And the work that she does is so incredible. I feel honored to work with Cynthia. I am so happy that Sandy Gallagher also agreed so that then our company could really get behind this. And that is our charity of choice. We feel the work they do there is so important. And now Cynthia and Blaine come back from India, and she was so excited on the phone. She was explaining how they were starting to put the programs into these schools, and they were going to start right here in LA. So we're going to be putting in a number of the programs, pardon me, that we market. We are donating, and they're going into the schools in the area that the Unstoppable Foundation is going to be working. So it's just great work. And I would encourage you not just to go to this, but to really get enthusiastic about it. I was doing a meeting for Doug Dane in Guelph. I think it was in Guelph. What's that little guy's name, Doug? Zach? Zach Kerwin. At any rate, I was sitting in the back of the room, and this young kid got up, and they were telling a story. What was he, 11 or 12? 10. And he was doing work, raising money, and for building schools in Africa. I thought, that sounds pretty familiar, and he kept going with it. And he had heard about the founder of the We organization in exactly the same area I live in Toronto, in Thornhill. It's a in North Toronto. And he was raising money for him. And I got up to speak after, and I said, is that the same organization? I started asking, and sure enough, it was. So I was telling him, I said, I go to an event in Los Angeles. We support that organization. I go to an event in Los Angeles. It's a big deal. And I said, would you like to come to that? Oh, I'd really like to come to it. He's 10, 11 years old. So I said, okay, I'll take you. So I'm going to be bringing him this year. Well, a little while later, his mother came over and she said, would you take me with him? I thought, well, there's another opportunity to give a little more. So anyway, we must remember, as Cynthia was talking about the We organization, we must, Doug, you got to remember for me to get in touch with them, get their tickets. And you sent him a text since Cynthia went up. So you're working for him now, are you? Well, we want to bring that little guy and his mother because I think that would be good. Come down to line 7 on page 105. Or just turn back, or to go back to line 1. It says, turn back to chapter 6. Read again the story of the man who formed a mental image of his house. And you'll get a fair idea of the initial step toward getting rich. You must form a clear and a definite mental picture of what you want. You cannot transmit an idea unless you have it. You must have it before you can give it. And many people fail to impress the thinking substance because they have themselves only a vague and misty concept of the things they want to become, to do, or to have. You know, it's funny how things, when you do have an image of what you want, how they come together. When Cynthia was up here talking about Debbie Ford. Debbie Ford passed on way too young. She was a very young lady, and she had done a lot of good work. And I think she inspired Cynthia to a large degree to do the work she's doing. And Debbie Ford had written books. She was a pretty well-known speaker and everything. And I had never met her. And I told Cynthia, I said, I would really like to meet her. And she said, well, she's coming to the party. I'll get her to come early. You come early, and you'll have a chance to meet her. And I thought, that's cool. So I did that. Well, I got in, and I was chatting with Debbie, and I was having a great conversation with her. And then Cynthia come and asked me, she said, could I auction off a coaching session with you, a personal? And I said, sure. And so she said, well, we'll auction it off. Well, the bidding got up to $2,000 for me to sit down with someone. And Debbie Ford bought it. And I thought, this is so cool, you know. Here, I want to meet her, and she's paying me to sit down with her. So anyway, I went down to her place in San Diego. She had wonderful views. She was on top of a cliff looking right down into the water, a beautiful place in San Diego. We had a great visit. And then Cynthia came down later, and that was really where the idea started to expand in your mind, I think, about doing this. It was really pretty cool. Sometimes people feel I'm hitting them too hard selling, and that's too bad because I don't mean to upset you, but I do that. That's who I am. And I know sometimes it sort of stings when you get it. Cynthia had gone to see the founder of the Habitat, and he told her that she should get a goal big enough to really get her jazz. And so anyway, she thought, well, I'll build houses. And she thought, I'll build 10 houses. But that didn't really do anything for her. Then she thought, I'll build 20 houses. And that still didn't do anything. And she thought, I'll build 50 houses. in Nepal, it cost $2,000 to build a house. She thought, I'll build 50 houses. And it sounded pretty ambitious, but it didn't really light the fire. And then she said, I will build 100 houses. And that got her excited. And she said, I will go to Nepal, and I'll take people with me, and I'll start building myself. And she met with me, and she was telling me this. She said, what do you think of that? And I said, I think that's incredible. You're going to do that? She said, yeah. I said, well, that is really cool. And she said, yeah, I got to raise $200,000. Well, I said, that's not a big deal. You know, I said, get 10 people, each give you 20,000, and it's all over. Oh, she said, I never even thought of that. And she looked me square in the eye, and she says, will you give me $20,000? Did you ever feel like you've been had? I felt very uncomfortable sitting there. I didn't know what the hell to do. I felt like crawling right under the table. So my own teaching came back, and I thought, this must be good. It's really making me feel uncomfortable. And this all happens in a millisecond in your mind, because you got to answer the woman. And that's all this is going through my mind. You know, I think it takes weeks. No. Milliseconds this happens. You know, I'm thinking, oh, my God, this is where I go. You know. And I said, okay. And that felt uncomfortable. I'd never just give somebody $20,000 before. Well, then, a little while later, she came back and she said, I can only find 9 people. Well, I said, what the hell are you telling me that for? She said, I need another 20,000. I was working with another guy at the time, and I said, write a check for Cynthia Kersey for $20,000. He said, no, I'm not doing that. You've already given her 20. I said, write the check. And you know, the second 20 didn't hurt as much as the first 20. I mentioned that she taught me to give. That's when I really learned to give. She put me in a position where I felt embarrassed to say no. And then something clicked in my mind. It must be pretty good if it's making me feel this uncomfortable. You see, whenever you step out of your comfort zone, you grow. If you step out a long way, there's a lot of growth. And if you really want to win, that's what you have to do. You can come up with all kinds of excuses of why you shouldn't, or this is not a good time, or you know, I don't know if I'm going to be busy or I'll be in town that time. No, that's all a bunch of rationale. That is excuses that are being manufactured by your paradigm to keep you where you are. That's exactly what it is. You've got to step out of that. You've got to step up to bat, and you've got to do it. On line 11, it's not enough that you should have a general desire for wealth to do good with. Everybody has that desire. It's not enough that you should have a wish to travel, see things, live more. Everybody has those desires also. He said, if you are going to send a telegram message to a friend, you would not send the letters of the alphabet in their order and let him construct the message for himself. Nor would you take words at random from the dictionary. You would send a coherent sentence, one which meant something. When you try to impress your wishes upon the thinking substance, remember that it must be done in a coherent statement. You must know what you want, and you've got to be definite. When we say the subjective mind is totally deductive, that means that it cannot change one thing If you forgot to put something, too bad, it doesn't go. It is totally subjective. It is like the earth. It doesn't care what you plant. It won't complain about what you plant. It won't change anything you plant. You put it in, that's it, baby. And that's the way the subjective mind works. It is totally deductive. It has no inductive reasoning capacity whatsoever. Absolutely none. Now, when we really understand that, we're going to start paying attention to what the hell we are emotionally involved with, because that's what you're planting. It's very important that we understand this. I got that book, and this is the man that wrote it, on October the 21st, 1961. And I have progressed my thinking since. There's the statement Andrew Carnegie gave to Napoleon Hill. He said, any idea that's held in the mind, that's emphasized, that's either feared or revered, will begin at once to clothe itself in the most convenient and appropriate form available. Now, do you know in chapter 2 we talked about that? We called it the perpetual transmutation of energy. That's the perpetual transformation of energy. That is the law at work. Whatever idea, it begins to move into form. We want to make certain we know what we're thinking about. There is the young Napoleon Hill when he went to meet this man first in 1908. Now, most of you have heard this story, but I don't think you can hear it too often. I certainly can't. He had a 3-hour interview with Carnegie. Hill did. And he was a young reporter in his 20s. At the end of the 3-hour interview, he must have been very nervous going to meeting him. Here's a young guy that had no money, just new job, young reporter, and he's going to meet the wealthiest man in the world. He had a 3-hour interview. At the end of the 3-hour interview, what Hill did not know, unbeknownst to him, Andrew Carnegie had been searching for someone that would go out and write the laws of achievement. At the end of the 3-hour interview, he said, this interview isn't ending, it's just beginning. He said, come with me. And he took him home. And they stayed there for 3 days. Hill said afterwards he was glad he took him home because he didn't have enough money to rent a hotel room. And they stayed there for 3 days, and in 3 days, Carnegie was unloading his philosophy on how he got to where he got to this young reporter. In chapter 8 in here, he wrote a whole chapter on decision. I mentioned this earlier. He said, every successful person makes decisions very fast, and they change them very slow, if and when they change them at all. Now, here's where he learned that. At the end of the 3 days, Carnegie said to him, now, Napoleon, you know how I've got to where I am. And he said, I want to ask you a question. And I just want a answer, yes or a no answer. He said, I think it's an absolute crime that people like myself, like Henry Ford, like Thomas Edison, go to their grave with all this knowledge locked up in their bones. He said, no one has ever written the laws of achievement. Then he said, would you dedicate the rest of your life to an idea for which you would probably receive no material compensation for at least 20 years? Unbeknownst to Hill, he sat with a stopwatch in his hand under the desk. In 25 seconds, Hill said, yes, he would. Every time I tell the story, every time I read it, every time I think about it, I ask myself, what would I have said? And every time I've arrived at the conclusion, I would have said yes too. I think if you spent 3 days with this man, you would know that he would not ask you to do something that was unjust. And Carnegie said, now, Napoleon, you have taken on an enormous task. He said, I am going to give you letters of introduction. And he did that to 500 of the world's most successful people. But he said, long before you complete this, and he said, you will receive no subsistence. You got to pay your own way. He knew that was the only way he would really learn anything. Now, Napoleon Hill had all kinds of crazy ideas going on in his mind because he was living with his brother, and he was working. He had already agreed that he was going to keep his brother while he went through college. And he was going to have to go home and tell him he couldn't do that because he just took a job with no pay. And so all this thought was running through his mind. And then Carnegie said, now, Napoleon, you're going to have trouble. Everything in you is going to want to quit long before this is complete. Now, he said, I'm going to give you something that'll help you combat the negativity and the problems. He said, I want you to write this out. I want you to write every word, and I want you to underline it. This is what I want you to write. Now, remember, this is you talking to yourself, Napoleon. And you're saying, Andrew Carnegie, I'm not only going to equal your achievements in life, but I'm going to challenge you at the post and pass you at the grandstand. Andrew Carnegie, the wealthiest man in the world, Napoleon Hill, is a young reporter who's broke. He's saying, Andrew Carnegie, I'm not only going to equal your achievements in life, but I'm going to meet you at the post and I'm going to pass you at the grandstand. Napoleon Hill, he said, he threw his pen on the floor and he said, now you know darn well that's not going to happen. No, he said, I know it's not going to happen unless and until you sink that idea in your subconscious mind. Now he said, will you make a commitment? Will you make a commitment that you will repeat that to yourself looking in the mirror every day, every morning and every evening for 30 days? Hill said, well, I agreed that I could do that. He agreed to do that. And he said the first time he did it, he went to the bathroom and he locked the door and he looked in the mirror and he whispered it because he didn't want his brother to hear him. He didn't want anybody to think that he had lost his mind. Taking a job that's going to take 20 years and receive no pay. So he's looking in the mirror and he's saying, Andrew Carnegie, I'm not only going to equal your achievements in life, I'm going to meet you at the post, pass you at the grandstand. And he said, he's a fool. But he made a commitment that he'd do it, so he did it. He said, by the middle of the month, he thought maybe this would work. By the end of the month, he was totally convinced that he would do it. You see, whatever you plant grows. You're planting it inside yourself. It grows inside yourself. It influences your conscious thinking. It controls the vibration you're in. It dictates what you attract into your life. Hill did the job, and from that came this book. I have read where Carnegie made anywhere from 23 to 53 millionaires. I get a different number each time. Napoleon Hill has made millions of millionaires. He met him at the post, and he passed him at the grandstand. Now, there's a great lesson in this. I talked about Avi Aronoff. He's 23 now. Avi repeats that to me all the time. Bob Proctor? Where's Sandy? Where is she? Is she in the green room? Come on out here, Sandy. Come on, quit hiding. Come out from under the bed. All right? What do you say about this?
Bob Proctor, I not only matched your achievements in life, I challenged you at the post and passed you at the grandstand.
I remember when I first suggested that she do that, she was very awkward with it. She didn't want to say, well, I'm not saying it in front of everybody. Now she just comes out and, you know. She's comfortable with it, you see. And I might mention, she controls all the money in this company. I've got to go, could I have some money?
Every day.
I don't do it every day.
Every day.
Every day. Well, could you give me some?
See, he's waiting.
Listen, there's a great lesson in this. I want you to stop and think of how absolutely ridiculous that would have sounded to a young guy in his 20s in 1908, sitting with the wealthiest man in the world. And that man said, write this out. I want you to repeat it every day. Wouldn't his mind be in a conflicting state? Wouldn't it be like he was receiving a double-binding message all the time? His paradigm would have been telling his consciousness, this is absolutely nuts. But his reasoning mind would have said, he wouldn't ask me to do this if it didn't work. So part of his mind was saying, this makes sense. And the other part was saying, this is insane. It's the idea behind this is the big deal. When you sink that in your mind over and over, I don't care what it is. I don't care what it is. You're going to find it works. How did I do with that? Ali Khan, where are you? Hello? Where? Do you mind if I read this? You notice how that happens? Somebody else says, no, he doesn't mind. Well, I'll tell you why I want to read it. I mentioned earlier that I had been talking to someone. He told me he felt very uncomfortable. He felt socially incapable of meeting people, and he just didn't feel comfortable. And yet I think if I dug in and did a little more research, I'd find the guy is pretty successful anyway. And he kept talking. I said, listen, what I want you to do, I want you to go and write out how you want to be, and then I want you meeting people. Now, I told you that earlier. Well, he came up and gave this to me. And I am quite honestly impressed with the way you wrote this, Ollie. He said, I am so happy and grateful now that I am comfortable meeting and socializing with anyone, anywhere. I'm comfortable talking and befriending anyone. I am holding meaningful conversations with influential and powerful people, which include presidents, prime ministers, generals, celebrities, models, and actresses. I convey and communicate my ideas, thoughts and feelings, emotions to others clearly and fluently. I am calm, relaxed, and confident, holding a conversation with anyone over the phone, face-to-face, texting, or through video chats. I am free of other people's opinions and thoughts on how I talk or what I say. I focus my attention on others when talking to them. I focus outwardly when communicating with others. I think highly of myself. Look at that. I wouldn't edit one thing in that. I think that is absolutely incredible, Allie. Do you have a copy of this?
No.
Hello?
I do not.
Well, come on up here.
Go, go.
Spence, get around and get a picture of this. Come on up here. Listen, I want you to make a commitment that you will look in the mirror and you will read this twice a day, every day, for the next 30 days.
Yeah, I will do it.
You will do it.
Thank you so much.
Huh? Uh-huh.
Thank you so much.
That is, I don't think I have ever asked anyone to do that where they did it as well as you've done it. It's always required some editing. I'd say, no, change this, change that. That is really quite extraordinary. I'm going to tell you, a stupid, unaware person couldn't have done that. You got a lot going for you.
Thank you so much, Bob.
Good. Give me another hand.
But I want to say something too. Since I'm here, so I want to share something with you guys. Almost 11 years ago, I came to the U.S. as an immigrant, and with no business experience or work experience, I started my business. I've been very successful for my age. And later, like 3-4 years ago, I was online searching for something. I came across a video by Bob Proctor. And that's when I realized that whatever I did in life, how I did it. And basically all his teachings were, I was following it unconsciously. That led to my success. Then I started developing more about myself and learning more about business. So these things that Bob is teaching, it really, really works. I'm witness to it myself. Just want to let you know that.
Sure. That's good. Okay. Do you know he wrote the statement? By reading that every day, every morning, every night for a month, his life will be transformed. He is planting that magnificent concept that he's written there in his own subconscious mind. I love the way William James put it, in the garden of his subconscious. Napoleon Hill had a huge vision. He developed very powerful friends. Keep in mind, he was a young reporter that went on an assignment. He ended up becoming great friends with Thomas Edison, Henry Ford, Harvey Firestone, Herbert Hoover. Yeah, but you've got to ask yourself, who are your mastermind partners? I started to study this, and I started to study it like a scientist. I was listening to Earl Nightingale on a recording. It came from the Nightingale Conant Corporation. I didn't know what a Conant was. I found out it was a man. And it was Lloyd Conant. And I made up my mind I was going to go to work with them. I would become very closely associated with them. You see, I figured if Hill could do it, then Bob could do it. Because that's everything that Hill talked about. So I made up my mind I would become well-known with them. I would have them mentor me. Now, it took a while, but here's how it happened. In 1961, I bought the book, or I got the book, Think and Grow Rich. In October 1963, I picked up a copy of Success Unlimited. It was published by the Stone Foundation, and the editor was Og Mandino. Og Mandino and I became very close friends long before he passed away. We spent many years being very close friends with each other. In that magazine, I saw an advertisement where I could become a consultant or an associate with the Nightingale Conant Corporation. And that's when I decided that's what I would do. Now, that was in 1963. I was up to here in business in 7 different cities in 3 different countries. But I made up my mind that's where I was going to go. I kept listening to this record every day, every day. And that's me in 1968. I was the vice president of sales for the Langell Conant Corporation. I had an office right beside those 2 men. Okay? Why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this to impress upon your mind that if you've got the dream, it doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter what you have. It doesn't matter where you've been. What matters is where you're going. And you're going wherever you tell your subconscious mind. Now we're going to hand out goal cards. I want everybody to get a goal card. Okay? And on the back of the goal card is a very famous and favorite quote of mine. It's not that, although that is another favorite. This is by Earl Nightingale. He said, "This great dream, this surging dynamic thing, yet visible to all the world except to the person who holds it, is responsible for every great advance of humankind." Well, I'm going to tell you, as far-fetched as it was, that was my dream. Somebody asked me a question yesterday, what do you have to pay for your goal? You have to pay whatever it demands. You have to pay whatever it demands. You have to be prepared to pay the price. And if you're not, that's on the opposite side of that record, to pay the price. I got an education going there that was second to none. Right outside Earl and Lloyd's office. You go up to the end of the hall, you go right to Lloyd's office, left to Earl's office. And right outside was Marilyn, his secretary. And if Earl ordered a magazine, a subscription, she would get me one. If he ordered a new book, she would get me one. If Paul Harvey or somebody notable was coming in to see Earl, she would let me know. I would do my homework, and when they stepped out of Earl's office, I would... And I'd asked if I could have a few minutes with them. I did some research, so I would let them know I knew who they were. And sometimes I got a few minutes, and sometimes they became my friends. I wanted to know who to associate with. I wanted to know what he read. I wanted to know the magazines he subscribed to, because I wanted to be like him. I had gone to visit him a couple of years before that, back around probably 1965, after I had read about him having people work with him. And his office was at 333 North Michigan. I can remember it well. I was in Chicago a good 3 hours ahead of my appointment. It was at 3 o'clock. And I'm walking up and down North Michigan for a couple of hours until it was time to go in to meet him. And when I went in, I walked in, and one of the things I noticed right away on the wall in his office was a proverb that's literally accurate right up today. "Seest thou man diligent in his business, and he'll stand before kings." And beside it was a picture of Earl Nightingale being introduced to Queen Elizabeth. And you can say, well, that's no big deal. It makes that proverb literally accurate right up to that point. That was very impressive. That stuck in my mind. And at the end of the hour, I had an hour with him, something to the effect, Earl, what is really the big deal? I mean, what is it all about? Well, he says, there's no secret. He said, you just figure out what you love to do and dedicate your life to it. He said, the problem with most people is they never figure out what they love to do. Well, I got really super jazzed right at that moment because I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I'm going to do what he was doing. And I wanted to do it with him. And I made up my mind then that whatever I had to do, I would be back and I would be in their office. Now, I wasn't in that office because they had moved from there up to Lincolnwood, but I had an office right beside his. Whatever you want, you can have, but you have to pay the price. Write it down. Write it on a card. Carry the card in your pocket. Now, let me tell you how this works. I have my goal written on my card. When I touch that card, you know what happens? A light message goes streaming through the central nervous system in my body. It strikes a group of cells in my brain that it resonates with, and those cells increase in amplitude of vibration, and the picture that's in them flashes on the screen of my mind. Whenever your senses are affected, it sends messages to your brain. I'm going to say a couple of words, and I'm going to have pictures come on your mind that are not on your mind now, but just like that, when I say the word, it'll come on your mind. I want you to think of your refrigerator in your kitchen, and like that. What color is yours, Keith? Sandal, see? I want you to think of your front door in your home, like that. The pictures come on the screen of your mind. Now, you see, what I did through voice, I set up a vibration. Your hearing sense picked it up. It went and struck a group of cells in your brain. Those cells increased in amplitude of vibration. They're always vibrating. It increased in amplitude of vibration, and the picture come on the screen of your mind. Well, when you write the goal on your card, you want to make damn sure that picture's clear, and then you paint the picture in words. Every time I touch the picture, you don't stuck it away in a wallet somewhere. Carry it loose in your purse or pocket. Every time you touch it, bang, like that, the picture comes on the screen of the mind. You keep that picture on the screen of your mind, it's going to move into form in your life. Now look, you have an imagination. There's a power in consciousness. You build a picture of what you want. Could you turn that time off, please? Turn the time off, please. On the monitor. Hello? Okay. There you go. You impress what you want upon the subjective mind. You plant it in your heart. Do you know you're doing that in a millisecond when you touch your goal card? And you keep touching the goal card, you're going to keep giving energy to it, and the want then turns into a desire. Now, it's the desire that fuels you. It's the desire that alters your vibration. It's the desire that causes you to act. Yet, not only causes you to act, it instantly sets up an attractive force. You can only attract to you energy that's in harmony with you. So the want turns into a desire. The desire turns into energy being expressed. That alters your vibration, and it changes the results in your life. Now, Napoleon Hill is standing proof to that. Andrew Carnegie was standing proof to that. I am standing proof to that. Make certain you are standing proof to that. Now, when I talked earlier, I talked to a couple of people, Glenn being one of them, that's becoming a consultant with us. And I was telling Glenn, we're moving this thing into high gear. We've got some phenomenal people that we've attracted. I would like the consultants that are with us now to stand up for a moment. I want you to give them a hand because they are doing a lot of work. Okay? Thank you. If you'll turn now to page 105, and I would like you to read those together, the lines in this chapter, and then answer the questions on page 111, but discuss each one of the questions. So one person starts reading, and you get to a certain point, you say pass, and let somebody else pick it up. Okay? Thank you.
Underneath the moonlight, watching invade me.
Hello there and welcome. I hope you are really enjoying watching the streaming. And realize this, we're doing a seminar in April. You might want to come to it. You get locked into the energy of this room and it's dynamic. It does something to you. I'm glad you joined us on streaming. And you remember, you got all week to keep reviewing this. But let's make sure that you set a date for yourself, that you're going to be here in this room in April. Thank you. We are ready. Has Phil come back in? Is Phil there? All right, folks. We're going to take, first of all, when you write your goal, make certain it's written in the present tense. The only thing in future tense is the date. And understand you're guessing at that. You don't know what the date will be. Now, if the date comes and it hasn't happened, give it an extension. You've just chosen the wrong date. No one knows what the gestation or incubation period is for an idea. But write your goal on the card, carry the card loose in your purse or your pocket, and don't leave home without it. Okay? Listen. If I go out and I haven't got my goal card in my pocket, I feel naked. I have to go back and get it. It's that important. All right? We're going to take a quick break. I'm going to ask everyone if they'll clear the room as quickly as possible. You're coming back into the same table. And Gina, you're going to...
And if you have your card for Unstoppable, we've got 3 people standing over here. Doug?
I'm going to ask, are we all ready to start? Everybody's coming in? Yesterday, Phil Goldfine explained, I explained, first of all, how Phil and I met. And I thought it was about 13 years ago. Apparently it was 17 years ago. But I have a difficult time thinking in reverse, so I lost track. Phil mentioned that we're making a documentary on the ideas that I've taught and how he put those ideas to work to accomplish what he's accomplished. And the last stop, he's won the Panda, the Tony, the Emmy, the Oscar, and I'm going to call him up. He wants to take a picture and send it to the BBC because the documentary. Come on up here, Phil. We'll get a photo. You want me to hold it?
Yeah, you do it. Way up, Max.
Got it. Wait a minute.
Thanks, God. Really appreciate it.
Now I watch for it on the BBC. All right. I want you to turn over to page 116. We have here to set about getting rich in a scientific way. You do not try to apply your willpower to anything outside of yourself. This is probably one of the most important lessons and one of the most misunderstood. We think we have to, persuade other people, to impose our will on other people. That is not the case. You have no right to do so anyway. It is wrong to apply your will to other men and women in order to get them to do what you wish done. I think it was Oscar Wilde said, selfishness is not living as one wishes to live. Selfishness is asking others to live as one wishes to live. This is along that line. It is as flagrantly wrong to coerce people to through mental power as it is to coerce them by physical power. It is compelling people by physical force to do things for you reduces them to slavery. Compelling them by mental means accomplishes exactly the same thing. The only difference is in the methods. It's taking things from people by physical force is robbery, then taking things by mental force is also robbery. In principle, there is no difference. You have no right to use your willpower upon another person, even for your own good, because you do not know what is for their good. Now, let's think of this for a moment. When you know what to think and do, you must use your will to compel yourself to think and do the right things. This is the legitimate use of the will in getting what you want, to use it in holding yourself to the right course. It's not an easy thing to do sometimes. Use your will to keep yourself thinking and acting in the certain way. Now, I have put together this concept a few years back, but it really explains things well. Let that drawing represent you. Let the drawing represent you. On the one side is ignorance, on the other side is knowledge. Ignorance is the only problem we have. Every problem in the world, the cause of it will go down as ignorance. Its polar opposite is knowledge. Now burn that picture into your mind. Now think of this. When outside conditions control thoughts, your thought power is being controlled by your paradigm. There's a power flowing into your consciousness, and you have the ability to think anything you want to think. Now look at this. What do? You start worrying and doubting. Because you take a look at what you've got, and you haven't got enough to get what you want. You're not going to be able to get it done. So doubt and worry. Now what do? We took a power that is without form, and it's flowing into our consciousness. We have the ability to choose to make anything out of it we want, and what do we make out of it? We turn it into a negative concept. Now this doesn't happen as slow as I'm explaining it. This happens at warp speed. You're dealing with the central nervous system, the most complex electrical system known to us. It would make the supercomputer look like an absolute toy. Instantly upon thinking it, we impress it upon the subjective mind. And that's what sets up the fear. The fear is not contained inside. The fear is expressed through the body as anxiety. Now, frequently, people get in this state and they start to take drugs for the anxiety. They go to doctors. Doctors start to feed them drugs. It doesn't work. They go to another doctor. What's causing it? It's our own thinking. The anxiety is not expressed. The anxiety is suppressed. We bottle it up and hold it inside. That turns to depression. You know, we see shows on television all the time, where talk shows, where they're talking about depression and they're treating it as if it's some magic thing that we don't know how to deal with. Well, we're causing it ourselves. The depression is nothing but the anxiety suppressed. The anxiety is fear bottled up inside. The fear is caused through wrong thinking, and we had a choice. The depression turns into disease, and the disease turns into decay, disintegration. St. Clair Lewis said, we don't die, we kill ourselves. We do it so slow, no one recognizes what is actually happening. It's a form of suicide. And why would we do that? Well, go right to the cause of the problem. It's ignorance. Now, faith based on understanding is the key to freedom. Let's start to understand how our mind works. Let's listen to our body. Our body speaks to us. Our body's telling us things. If we find ourselves getting uptight, we've got to understand it originates in the mind. It has to. The body is nothing but the instrument of the mind. It's not her, it's not him, it's not it, it's not them. It's inside. Over the past 15, 20 years, Phil and I have had many discussions on this. He would bring up things that were actually happening, and it would be very easy to just be overwhelmed. And I'd say, Phil, what do you want? Forget about what you're telling me. What do you want? Write it down on a piece of paper. Let that idea sink into your mind. You know that problem you're telling me about those other people, about this big organization? It'll go away. Just hold the image of what you want. Inevitably, he phones me back. He says, the damnedest thing, they just dropped everything. Well, of course they would. Now look, choice. The power is flowing in. We choose to lock into the other side. It takes understanding. That's where understanding comes in. And if you haven't got the understanding, you're toast. It just is not going to happen. I was talking, I think, at the luncheon meeting, I was pointing out that understanding is what Solomon said is to get. And it's what most people are lacking. They lack the understanding of how they function, how their mind operates, the relationship of the mind to their social circles, their income, their business, the health of their body. Now, there is only one way to develop understanding, and that is through study. There is no other way to do it. Now, like I was saying, there's many forms of study, but you must study. If you think you can just put in time, it isn't going to happen. You've got to understand. Now, there's many people winning that don't understand why they're winning. They have no idea. They're doing the right thing, but they're doing it unconsciously. So therefore, they can't transfer it. They can't give it to anybody. We've got to really grasp this. Now, the understanding leads to faith. What is faith? Well, let's think. Conscious mind, subconscious body. Faith is the ability to see the invisible. See the invisible. To believe in the incredible. And that will permit us to receive what the masses say is impossible. That's what we were talking about in that call, Tony. It's the ability to see the invisible. Now, let's suppose there's a real serious problem in the body or in the bank account. We ask, what do we ask? We ask infinite. We ask God. We ask Spirit. We ask for what? Whatever we want. Ask for whatever you want. Power is flowing in. It has no form. You can give it whatever form. We see the invisible. We see the problem solved. We see the good. We see the health in the body. It's the ability to see the invisible, to believe in the incredible. What's incredible? That our subconscious is actually universal intelligence. It's pure unadulterated spirit. It will accept whatever you give to it and instantly and automatically by law move it into form. It's a perpetual transmutation of energy. We take the image that we created out of what? Out of pure unadulterated spirit. We created it. And then what we do, we give it back to spirit by internalizing it. Plant it in our heart. That's what Solomon said. It's as a person thinketh in their heart, so are they. And what happens? It begins to move into form. It's the ability to see the invisible, to believe in the incredible. It's incredible to believe that you have a power within you that will take any image you give to it and move it into form. That Emmy, that Oscar, that is not luck. That's prayers being answered. Most people think this is prayer. God help me. That's making a noise on your knees. That's what it is. Prayer is the movement that takes place between spirit and form with and through us. The truth is prayer is what most people do between prayers. Praying is what most people do between prayers. They're involved in this. They don't even understand what they're doing. Faith, the ability to see the invisible. What do you want? See it. See it in your mind. Your imagination will build it for you. Take your imagination into the future and bring it in. See the invisible. Believe in the incredible. There's a power in every cell of my being, in my fingernail, in my toe, in my hair, in my brain, in every part of me that is totally subjective. See the invisible. Believe in the incredible. And that will permit you to receive what the masses call impossible, well-being. The well-being is not suppressed like the anxiety. It's polar opposite. The well-being is expressed. And the expression turns to acceleration. We call that momentum. You're building momentum. You get that, Brad? Momentum. You like momentum? Of course you do. And why does that happen? Because there's no dis-ease, you're at ease. Calmness of mind is one of the beautiful jewels of wisdom. It's a result of long and patient effort in self-control. What do we say to do with the will? Not anything outside, all inside. Makes sense, doesn't it, Wendy? Yes, sure it does. And because we're at ease, there's no disintegration. It's called creation. We're co-creators with an infinite power. You have a choice. You can go that way or that way. You can have yourself going that way or that way. What do you want? Who do you think controls this? Yeah, not we, me. I control. You control. Focus. Where your focus goes, your energy flows. That's just the way it works. Take a few minutes now and read from page 116 through 121. All right? Now, if you turn over to the questions on 122, and I want you to think of this. In fact, you might want to write this down. Anything you fight to get, you're going to have to fight to keep. Anything you fight to get, you're going to have to fight to keep. When we're working with the law, it just naturally comes to us. That takes a respectable understanding. It takes an abundance of faith, but it works unequivocally every time. If we can take a look at nature and know that every time the tide goes out, it comes in. Winter never follows winter. The leaves always fall off the tree and they come back on the tree. Well, what we've got to understand is that we are a part of a whole thing. The difference between you and me and the tree is that we have the ability within to work in harmony with what's causing all these things to happen. And we can originate a cause in our mind for anything we want to happen in our life. Now, that is so far removed from the way most of us have been programmed as children that it's a very difficult thing to believe. Even though we're here and we're hearing this and we're talking about this for 2-3 days, the paradigm has been being fed. It's been fed for centuries. It goes way back in your genetic history. Stop and think of the culture of different companies, of different countries, of different communities. Culture is just a fancy word for paradigm. Paradigm is a multitude of habits. Culture is nothing but a multitude of habits. When you get past the culture, people are essentially the same. They're spiritual beings that have been gifted with an intellect, that live in a physical body and correspond with the material world. They have creative ability. These little children that Cynthia's working with in Africa and India have exactly the same power as you and I. And she is making sure they become aware of it. Think of how that's going to change their culture. Now take a few minutes and discuss these questions on page 122, because they're damn good ones.
What is lost if it's not here?
Hello? All right. Hello, hello, hello. Okay, I'd like you to turn over to page 173. Now, this is one of the three lessons I talked to you about, 4, 14, and 7. This is a very important lesson. You heard Sandy explain when she went over to Whigby Island and looked at the house, and it was beyond her wildest dreams. And she was pretty well convinced she couldn't do it. And I said, why don't you practice what you preach, what we teach? And I suggested that she get in the house, ask the agents to go outside, and go and live in each room. Sit down in each room and imagine yourself living there. And then I said, after you've done that, and you feel very comfortable in the energy, and you've created that energy in that room, and you're part of that energy, then you just have to focus on one thing, and this is it, right here. I said, you've got to start leaving everyone you come in contact with the impression of increase. Because if you want to receive a lot, the law says you've got to give a lot. And you want to take your mind off receiving and focus it on giving. If you had listened to Wendy and Keith yesterday very carefully, he made this big commitment. He was buying the house, but it was on the water. And he's thinking, how am I going to do this? He's got 90 days or 120 days, was it? And he had no idea how to do it. But he made the commitment. He wrote a check for $90,000, and off it went. And that $90,000, he might as well burnt it if he was going to miss, because it was not his any longer. It belonged to the people that he gave it to. And what did he do? He started to focus on how he could give more in each business. He broke the business down into 3 different parts. And he started to focus on leaving the impression of increase. And that's really where it's at. Now, I think Sandy is an excellent person to teach this because of the depth that she learned when she was doing it. And I said, what you're going to do as you're doing this, you're going to continually raise your level of consciousness. And as you do that, you're going to increase your confidence in yourself and your ability to do things that at first you don't know how it's going to happen. It's beyond the grasp of your imagination even. But I said, you make the decision and you create the energy. Get in every room. Live in every room. And see yourself in it. Mentally, be quiet. Move into a very quiet state and mentally fill that room. You're in that room. That room's in you. Now, when you've done that, then you walk away from there and you start to leave everyone you come in contact with the impression of increase. And I said, if you really want to throw a ringer in it, write your whole family, every damn one of them, and invite them to dinner in this house. Now, she's a proud person. Her family are, always wondering about her. She was giving them one tremendous opportunity to laugh at her if she blew it. So she couldn't afford to blow it. When I was talking to Avi in Toronto, I said, Avi, do exactly what I tell you. Avi's doing it. Avi's earning millions of dollars. And he's 3. Sandy did exactly what I told her. She had Christmas dinner. It was one of the best Christmases they ever had, according to what she was telling me and the family said, and the note she got back. So listen really carefully to this, because it's all about raising consciousness, about putting it out. Give her a hand. Come on.
just hearing Bob talk about that, I can just picture sending the invite out to my family and inviting them to Christmas dinner at my new house, getting the calls, getting the texts. What new house is this? Oh, we'll talk about that later. You know, and it's like, are you coming? And they were all there. And when I was sitting in the house and I was going through all the different rooms and you know, visualizing what it would be like to be in that house, this is so important. I was in the kitchen and I could literally see the family there at the dining room having the dinner and the conversations I was having with them. And that is so key for the visualizing, because the visualizing, it's not something that's happening outside of you. It's not something out here. It's not like you're watching a movie and you're seeing yourself in the movie. You're seeing your life through your own eyes. So that's really, really important. You're feeling it as real. And so I did that, and it was a scary thing to do. It was a really scary thing, probably more scary than some of the things I did with creating thinking into results. But one of the greatest lessons in this whole thing was how powerful the impression of increase is. How many have studied the chapter on impression of increase, either here or in lesson 11 on thinking into results? Okay, so this is great that a lot of you haven't really studied this, because this was a game changer for me. You know, my background was business, and this is one of the absolute foundational things you should learn as a business owner or running a business. And I had no idea really of what this concept was. So I want you to really put your thinking caps on and open your books and follow along here on page 173. And we'll go over this a little, and then we're going to look at some slides as well. All right, so go down to line 10 on page 173. The key thought of all your efforts must be to convey to others the impression of increase. Increase is what all men and women are seeking. It's the urge of the formless intelligence within them to find fuller expression. The desire for increase is inherent in all nature. It's the fundamental impulse of the universe. All human activities are based on the desire for increase. People are seeking more food, more clothes, better shelter, more luxury, more beauty, more knowledge, more pleasure, more life. Everybody wants more life. Every living thing is under that necessity for continuous advancement. Where increase of life ceases, dissolution and death set in at once. This is so fundamental to who we are. We have to have increase. And I love the way Wallace Wattles puts this. You know how he says increase is what all people are seeking. It's the urge of the formless intelligent within them seeking fuller expression. Think about those words. It's the urge within them seeking expression without. They have to go for more. They want more. So how does this relate? We know this is what we're like, but if we know this is what everybody else is like, it gives us the key to making their life better, and when we make their life better, it makes our own life better. We know everyone wants freedom. That's why we want to do more and be more and have more and give more. It gives us the ability to really express ourselves in a big way. And yet, when I think back to the corporate world that I grew up in and lived in for so many years, it was like one part of me would go to the company and another part of me would be at home. And what this program does, why I fell so in love with what Bob teaches, with thinking into results, is it merges all sides of our personality together. And that's why, Bob, it is so incredibly powerful in your company, because your people are bringing part of themselves to the company in most companies. And like you said, one speak in Russian, the other speak in English. Well, when you get and you talk about these fundamental things about people and you understand their need to have more, and you get that open in the table, you bring the whole person to the table. And the impact on the bottom line is huge. It's huge. I know you've seen it already. You know, this is what we're talking about. So you have this tool. You have this power. In thinking into results, this is lesson 11, impression of increase, and it follows lesson 10, which is on leadership. And the leadership lesson says if you want to be a real leader, Take all the lessons in thinking into results and use those tools with the people that you're leading. And then it's like the icing on the cake. Leave them with the impression of increase. Make them better off because of you. And so that's how thinking into results, it builds on all of that. But it's all about people wanting freedom. Go to page 174. Line 31, all men and women are attracted to an individual who can give them more of the means of life. In following the certain way, and this is what the certain way is, you're getting continuous increase for yourself and you're giving it to all whom you deal. You're a creative center from which increase is given off to all. Be sure of this and convey assurance of this fact to every man, woman, and child, no matter how small the interaction. Even if it's only selling a stick of candy to a child, put this into action, the thought of increase, and make sure the customer is impressed with the thought. Now, if you're going to do this, and you're always going to be leaving someone with the impression of increase, you've got to really be growing as an individual. And so you got to fight that paradigm. You got to win the battle with that paradigm. Look at this, the most powerful paradigm shifting tool on earth is the human soul on fire. I mean, it's amazing the power when you really sink your teeth into something you love and that you find great purpose in it. And then you can go through those obstacles. You can change the paradigm. You don't have something that you're going for that you really love. You know, it's so easy just to get knocked right back into status quo. And then how are you going to leave someone with the impression of increase? If you're denying yourself freedom, if you're denying yourself being the whole person that you can be, how can you leave someone else with the impression of increase? So you've got to decide that that's the path you're going to go on. And look at this, the answer to prayer is not according to your faith while you're talking, but according to your faith while you're working. In other words, you got to do it. You can't just talk about it. You got to get up and you got to do it. So to live your dreams, what do you have to do? What? Raise your voices. Okay, you got to raise your level of awareness. How do we raise our level of awareness? Okay, come on, guys, wake up. Understanding? Knowledge? Study? What about a goal? All right, so here's levels of awareness. This is you right here on the bottom here, this little guy on these levels of awareness. And it doesn't matter what your results are. Let's just say this is where you are. And so why did we come here? We came here because we want to raise our level of awareness. Why do we want to raise our level of awareness? To get better results in our life. And we know what our level of awareness is by looking at our results. We know because the results tell us. I used to always ask Bob questions about trying to analyze and diagnose my paradigm. And he's like, don't focus on that. What did Buckminster Fuller say? To change something, build a new model, right? To change something, don't fight the existing reality. Build a new model that makes the old model obsolete. So don't focus on the paradigm. Look at your results and decide what you want that is different. And if your results aren't where you want them to be, don't feel bad about it. Just say, fine, I know I have to raise my level of awareness. That's the only way to improve results, okay? So we do this through effective goals. Why do we do it through goals? Because we need the inspiration. Effective goals inspire you to move increasingly higher levels of awareness. And the wealth and the happiness and the relationships, the peace of mind, they all come with that. So we're not just talking about, what is an effective goal? What? Something you've never done before? What else? Something you really want? Something that scares you. Why do we want to be scared? Why do we want to get out of our comfort zone? Does everybody want to grow? Yeah, and so what we want to understand is that we want to go for something that is way beyond where we are. And, you know, you've got the goal, you've already done it before. Everybody knows that goal. You got the goal, we call it a B goal, where you say, okay, I'm going to go just a little bit more than I did before. 20 years in the boardrooms, we were setting B goals. And the whole system is designed for you the A or the B goal. When we worked with a community bank, they wanted to come out with 15 branches, new branches the first year of operation. Well, de novo banks, they come out with one branch. And usually 3 years later, the regulators will let them maybe open another branch if they prove themselves. We were going for a C goal with this bank. And the regulators, the federal regulators were like, no way. And it took forever to prove them, to convince them that we could do that. And we went out and we did it. But all our conditioning is saying, don't go for that one where we have no idea how to do it. I want to ask you, how many of you have decided that you are going for a goal that you got to have this criteria, you absolutely are in love with it. It's not what somebody else wants for you. It's not what you think you can do. It's not, what your dad or your wife or whoever says you should do. You're in love with it. How many got that piece of it? Okay. How many, keep your hands up. Please. How many of you, and streamers, I want you to be answering these questions too. So you've got something you really love. Are you committed to doing it? Yes. And how many of you that have that goal would say that you have no idea? Keep your hand up if you have no idea how you're going to make this happen for yourself. More hands went up. That's good. That's good. We're on the right track. Now, why are we on, that just seems absolutely absurd, doesn't it? I mean, that you're going to go for something you have absolutely no idea how to do. Well, when I was in that seminar room and, be in the inner circle of this company, closest advisor with Bob Proctor, create a program with him, and my mind's going, are you crazy? What about 20 years? What about law school? What about all that study and those clients? That's what happens. And the reason that we want to go for that is because we're going to grow. We're going to make a quantum leap. Forget this little go up 1 or 2 rungs on the ladder. We are going to go just right through it because we want to be creative beings. That's what we are designed to be. So the basic law of life, you're either creating or you're disintegrating. You can't stand still. You cannot stand still. When I had Thinking into Results was about to be released, I was still practicing law. And Bob had asked me to come in and run the companies. So I'm practicing law, finishing Thinking into Results, running the companies, and this was 4.5 months into it. And he came up to me and he says, so are you in or are you out? What are you doing? What are you doing? And I'm like, what? I can do it all. And he just gave me that Bob Proctor look, are you in or are you out? I thought, okay, I got to make a decision here. I can't keep putting 1 foot over here and 1 foot over here. So I wrote up a letter and I wrote it to all my colleagues, all my clients, family, friends, and it was a great letter. All the passion, this big goal I'm going for, and it was really a good letter, and I had it all queued up in the email to 2,000 people. And I'm getting ready to hit send on the computer. And I froze. I was just in such a state of terror barrier. And I knew I could get help from Bob. Don't ever call Bob if you don't want to do what you don't want to do, but you really want to do, because you'll do it. So I called him. And I said, I got it all queued up and I'm ready to hit send. I can't hit send. And he said, hit send. Jump. You'll develop wings along the way. Hit send. And I went, choom. And I hit it. And oh my God, I screamed. I literally screamed. And I went to the outbox. I was hoping it got stuck in the outbox, But I heard that, and it's out there to 2,000 people. Oh my God. And in 24 hours, I had 893 emails back. 893. How many do you want to guess? I like it where I am. I'm going to stay right where I am. How many do you think? You know, and all of them are like, I wish I had that kind of passion. I'd love to do something like that. But there were some of the most respected lawyers that I know, and they said, I'd love to do something like that, but I'm going to sit here at this desk till the day I die. And they meant it. They meant it. Now, can we do that? We can't do that. We can never be in a holding spot. We've got to create or we've got to disintegrate. And look at this. Watch this closely. We create or we disintegrate. What side of us wants to create? Higher side of our personality. But what's going on when we're trying to keep climbing and growing and show ourselves to our higher side? What's happening? The paradigm, what's it doing? It's pulling us back. Why is it pulling us back? Why? Habits? The answer is we don't care why. We just know. We just know that the paradigm is going to try to hold us back, and we don't have to figure out why. We just have to know it's going to happen. And you know what? It really puts up a fight right when you're ready to hit send. It really puts up a fight right when you're ready to jump. Right when you got to go do that thing that is so scary for you. I was talking to someone this morning who said, I really want to share with the group, but I just can't make myself stand up. So will you come pull me out of my chair? And I'm like, no, you got to stand up. That's the paradigm saying don't. So we got to really go through this. And unless we do, we're not going to continue to really raise our level of awareness to any material degree. So we want to understand this, a normal desire for increased wealth, it's not an evil or reprehensible thing. It's simply the desire for more abundant life. And because it's the deepest instinct of their nature, all men and women are attracted to an individual that can give this to them. That's what this whole chapter on impression of increase is about. It's about you feeling, you having increase through you, through your actions, through the way you live. And when you interact with other people, they feel that increase. They feel that they're in the way of increase because they are around you. When you get this and you enter this into every transaction you engage in, that's when life starts to become really magical. Really magical. So you've decided on this, and the goal is going to decide which side wins. Is it your higher side that's going to win, or is it your paradigm that's going to keep you down? And if you pick the right goal, and it's something that you really, really want, and then you have discipline. Discipline is the ability to give yourself a command and then follow through with it. I had to have Bob say, hit send. But it was the discipline that I had instilled through the study and the visioneering and really being focused on the goal that moved my arm and caused me to hit send. See, it's the discipline. And then you do it. You hit send. I thank God for that day that I hit send. When you get to that moment where you have to hit send or you have to nod your head yes in a seminar room in front of 683 people, yes, I'm in. Do it. Because as I look back and I think of the growth before then and the growth after, it's huge. And it's scary because we don't know what to do once we get past that. You know, we don't know what to do once we hit send. But as you make that choice, everything around you starts to change. All the conditions, all the circumstances, the environment you find yourself in, it starts to change and adapt to your new level of awareness. And so then you see, you know how to do. And you move to the next step, and you keep coming up with a bigger and higher goal. You're always on this climb, but you understand it. And you let the higher side win. You're getting continuous increase for yourself, and you're giving it to all with whom you deal. You're a creative center from which increase is given off to all. Such a powerful concept. Now, in your lesson guide, go to page 179. Thank you, Matt. And on page 179, it says, first off, it says, what I want for myself, I want for everybody. Golden Rule Jones. And this exercise is to think of 3 people who could really benefit from your assistance. And in the space below, we're going to do this right now. In the space below, write out the names of these 3 individuals and then detail your thoughts on how you're going to help this person within the next 30 days. So 3 people, how are you going to help them in the next 30 days? Let's take a few minutes and do this. Okay, everybody got their 3 people? Now, doesn't that feel good working on that exercise? How many enjoyed that? You know, I was sitting there, I was doing the exercise too, and I thought, that is the greatest thing about being in this industry, in the personal development industry. That's what we do every day is we find people that need help, and then we set out to help them. And that's the real secret. You get more increase as you're helping other people get increase. And you're doing it just like really out of the goodness of your heart. You're giving them everything you've got. So I encourage you tomorrow or even tonight make an appointment with these 3 people that you've picked. Make an appointment, meet with them this week, and you're going to start helping them. So you can leave them with the impression of increase. And then tonight, go over this exercise on the next page, page 180, and write out what you're going to do to change yourself. What are you going to change so that you start acting in a certain way and leaving people with the impression of increase? And as you leave here and you really work on applying this and you work on your goal and you work on all areas of your life, I want to leave you with this idea and have it keep coming back to your minds. It's really, really important, and it's this concept of doing your best. Did you do your best? There's a book that Jimmy Carter wrote called Did You Do Your Best? And in that book, he talks about Admiral Rickover. Admiral Rickover is here on the screen, and he was in charge of the nuclear submarine program. And Jimmy Carter wanted to be in the nuclear submarine program. And to be in that program, you had to have an interview with Rickover. Rickover was in office forever, highly, highly respected. And he would be in a big, big conference room with nothing in there, and it would be him on one side of the table and the candidate on the other. And so he had Jimmy Carter in there, and he got to pick, I think it was 8 topics. And he would pick 8 topics. You could pick whatever topic you wanted, so Jimmy Carter picked the ones he knew most about. And he was super excited about it. And he started the interview. And Rickover started asking him questions on each topic. And he became very quickly aware that he didn't know as much as he thought. And it's so great how he describes it, because he says he just started sweating bullets. Like he literally was just sitting there sweating. You know, it was like the interrogation lights were on him, and he was trying to impress this interview. I mean, I bet everybody's had an interview like that where you're just crumbling inside. And he was crumbling. This is President Jimmy Carter. And so then he got to a question where Rickover asked him, "How did you do in school?" And Jimmy was like puffing his chest, and he was like so excited to answer this because he did really well in his class. And he told what his ranking was. I think it was like, I don't know, 116th, but which is really high in where he was, the Naval Academy. And so Rickover asked him, he said, "Did you do your best?" This is the question we want to ask ourselves. Did you do your best? And Jimmy Carter just naturally started to answer yes, because he was so proud of his accomplishments. But then he realized this is Admiral Rickover, and this guy really knew what was what. And so he started to think about it. And then he said, he thought to himself, I probably could have done better. I probably could have done better. And so he says to Admiral Rickover, no, I guess I didn't do my best. And Rickover, he never changed his look on his face, never changed the expression on his face, no smile, nothing. And at that point, he turned around, put his back to Jimmy Carter like the interview was over. And right before, Jimmy Carter couldn't even move because he's just sweating bullets like, oh, what have I just done? And Rickover turns back to him and he says, why not? Why not? And he said that question just haunted him because he couldn't answer it. Why not? So we want to ask ourselves, did you do it? And if you didn't, why not? Why not? And then choose to do your best. Jimmy Carter got to redeem himself. Here he is in the Oval Office with Rickover, who's looking very proud to be there with him and happy that he had asked him that question and that it had a good result on him. So think of that story when you're out there. Did you do your best? Now, we're going to bring Bob up. This is the last part of the weekend, and it's going to be a phenomenal finish. I think Bob is going to teach the terror barrier, which is an amazing lesson. So I want everyone to stand up, give a big hug for Bob.
Thank you. We are on page 154. 154. Now, Cynthia shared what she was doing for a group of people that really need help. We have a young guy running around here with a camera. Spencer Taylor. Where's Spencer? There he is over there. He graduated from Michigan State in documentary film. And he's a very creative young guy. The videos, we get a lot of compliments on the videos that he's putting out. And he does a great job. I think probably his father was impressed with what he was doing, what he was studying, and had brought his dad to Matrix. Now, his dad was a very successful businessman. And I've talked to him a couple of times here. You've heard him talk. I don't think he's the most gregarious guy in the world, so he's not going to run around telling everybody what he's doing. But what he's doing is worth hearing. You know, you are on the streaming, you're all over the world. And hopefully you're getting as much out of this as the people in the room and as I'm getting out of it. And even if you've seen the whole thing up to this point, it's going to be recorded and it'll go back and go back for the next week. Drop back in any point and review it, and ideas are going to keep coming to you. We're going to teach a lesson here that I think is very, very apropos for this point in the seminar. We don't have the time to get through every one book, but I think you've got the idea how we study this, how I study it. I take paragraphs and I'll study the paragraph and I'll think about it and I'll ask the questions. And then I'll go back and I'll study again. I may take one lesson here and study it for a month. And if you can study with someone, you're going to gain more out of it. Somewhere you can bounce the ideas off that person, bounce them back and forth. Now, some of you may have ideas that you'd like to solve a problem. There's an enormous problem here in America with veterans. And, of course, there's an enormous number of veterans. Well, Bob Taylor decided he wants to do something about it. So, Bob, come on up for a minute. When did you get the idea?
8 years ago,
When did you start acting on it?
almost immediately.
8 years ago.
Not the foundation, but the need to take care of veterans in a different way.
Okay. So you've been working at it for 8 years. And since Matrix, what'd you do? Decide to really expand it, or?
Well, Spencer warned me, gave me some warning that I needed to come to Matrix with one big goal. And this was my one big goal, but I hadn't thought it out. I didn't even think about having a foundation. And the one thing about the Matrix is that you're helped to really refine that one main goal. And so that was the birth of the Patriot Promise Foundation.
And what is the Patriot Promise Foundation about?
The Patriot Promise Foundation is about making sure that we provide veterans with the best health care available, whether it's through medical technology or whether it's through proactive mental health care.
Okay? That's very good. Now, The lesson here, if you're in another country, you may say, well, that really doesn't move me too much about American veterans, and that's fine. It's the idea and the magnitude of the idea that is the important part in this lesson insofar as this program is concerned. We had Cynthia Kersey talking about what she did, and all of a sudden she got the idea there's something wrong here when she was at that women's conference in Africa. And she really didn't understand everything that was wrong, but she promised she was going to do something about it. And what do you call this? The Patriot.
The Patriot Promise Foundation.
So you see, here's another promise. Now, Spencer's made a short clip on this. I want you to watch it. Flip it on here.
My name is Bob Taylor. I'm the CEO, owner of Alliant Healthcare Products. I was in the United States Air Force. I was a navigator in B-52s and KC-135s.
My name is Don Title. I'm the Director of Business Development for Alliant Healthcare. I was in the Navy active duty from 1985 until 1991. I was a pilot rescue swimmer, and I was a trained electronics technician.
We've become experts at selling into the government. I see us as facilitators of the highest technology that is used to take care of our veterans.
At Alliant Healthcare, I have the opportunity to take all of my experiences from the time I was in the military, and now I feel like I'm giving back by focusing that energy and my experience specifically in the federal space. I've got the luxury of identifying some of the best partners that have the best products to provide and care for our veterans. The Patriot Promise is one way that we're really bringing these partners together and presenting the ultimate solution to help care for our veterans.
There are veterans that are forgotten, but it's our responsibility, not just as caregivers, but as small businesses, large business. It's our responsibility to make sure that they get the care that they need.
That's very good. Now, do you know, while I was watching that, I was thinking, it's so easy when you look at an enormous problem that's sometimes bigger than governments of large countries, it's so easy to say, well, what could I do? Well, the truth is, you could change it. You can change it. You can do anything. There is no limit to what you can do. I think what Bob got out of Matrix is that when you go there with a big idea, you're not doing it alone. There is a camaraderie there. If there's 100 people there, there's 100 people thinking of how you can reach your goal, because that's the objective. Every person there hears exactly what you want to do, and then they agree to use their connections, their resources to help you. We have a group here at this table who all serve our company, and they come to Matrix as experts, and they offer their help. Give them a hand because they're here. Okay? Bob not only decided to launch this philanthropic program, your business has boomed.
Absolutely.
How?
When I was at the Matrix, I had three things that I planted seeds for. One was the creation of this foundation. The other was to launch a new business unit for my multiple source of income. I have a business unit called Surge Cardiovascular. We manufacture catheters for open heart surgery, and we sell all over the world to 28 countries. And I've got a division that helps to sell products to the federal government, to all the veterans hospitals, and to the military hospitals. And I'd been thinking about opening another division. I'd worked with a company out of Germany for 4 years to try and acquire their technology for the United States. And a few months ago, it didn't pan out. They gave it to someone else. And about 1.5 years ago, I made a $3 million offer to acquire some product lines from another company, and I came in second. So I wasn't feeling so good. And then, to put the icing on the cake, one of our suppliers went bankrupt. So it really put me in a pickle. So in November, I went to a new manufacturing site, and it had been used for woodwork, so it was messy, dirty. But I could see us manufacturing there. So after Matrix, I could make a decision like that. I hit my terror barrier, on the way back to the office, but I decided that's what we were going to do. So we started into this office, or to this new manufacturing site. We're just moving in, and then the company that I came in second place on purchasing the products, the company that they sold it to did some shenanigans, so the president wrote me a letter and said, "I'm really upset, and I made a mistake, and I should have gone with you." So I'm meeting him and their senior engineers on Tuesday, and that has a potential to be about a $5 or $10 million a year contract. So the $3 million I would have spent, we hired the #1 engineer that develops heart catheters, and he's come to work for us since the Matrix. And we've got 65 products in a pipeline that I can invest $3 million into, and I just kicked that off last month. The German company that decided to go in a different direction, they went with another German company, and that German company reached out to me 3 weeks ago, and they want to buy our products. So the items I lost, and so this division has a potential to be the largest and most profitable division in my company. And in addition, I decided, because I was so impressed with Matrix, I decided I need to teach this to my senior management team. And what was going on is I kept sharing C-level ideas. I've had C-level ideas since I was little. I never knew how I was going to be in the Air Force. And I dreamt it, and a centerfold to me when I was little was the center of the flying magazines with the cockpits in it. And I never had the opportunity to fly. And my senior year at Michigan State, I'm walking on the way to class, and a voice in my head said, just what you said not to do is regret something that you could have done. My dad passed away very young, and I could hear his voice saying, I always wish I could have flown. And as I heard that voice, I was walking in front of the Air Force Recruiting Center. I took a right-hand turn. 9 months later, I was in the Air Force. I went to officers training school. 4 months after that, the first time I ever flew a plane, I was in a twin-engine jet at the controls. That's pretty cool. And I went on to be a navigator bombardier in B-52s. I served for 6 years in that, went on to a KC-135, served over 17 years, retired as a major, and had my private pilot's license. And so I think I've done the flying thing. I think I can do that. So I've had all these seagulls all my life, and I can visualize what I want crystal clear. And I have the whole picture painted, the blue glass building that our offices are in that video. That's what I dreamt 20 years ago. And so I've been communicating these seagulls, and everyone is saying, that's great, Bob. I want to be there when you get there. Go get it. And so, they just don't understand how to leap from an A goal to a C goal. So I am so grateful for Jacqueline and Doug and the work that they've done. They're absolutely wonderful. I consider them friends, and they have made an unbelievable difference. But when it started, we went through the first couple chapters, and I've been telling these people how great they can be. I don't see the maple seedling, I see the maple tree in all of its fall colors, and that's what I see in my people. I see their full potential. And I've been telling them, dream. What do you want? I've been asking them all these questions. I've been telling them what I've done to be successful. And so we have the second one where they start to tell what their goals are. They didn't even reach a B goal. They came out with an A- goal. Their goal was something like, we want to get our budgets done on time. We want to start using visual management like Bob is asking us to, with having no clue what they're doing. And Jacqueline right afterwards, and I said, holy crap, they haven't heard a damn thing I've been saying. And so I was like, is this going to work? And so she reassured me. She said, just have patience. We'll go through the whole program. And so we're at lesson 10, getting ready to go into lesson 11, the law of increase. And it is just phenomenal. It is absolutely phenomenal. Each one of them are starting to dream. One of the gals on my team, she now wants to be the COO of the company. And she has some astronomical earning
We got
desires.
gals like that in our company.
Right. They're pretty good.
We're going to number them.
And I had a relatively low goal for the amount of money that I needed. But I want to share my success with everyone on the team. So I helped them do the math. This is how much I want. This is how much, we have to pay to taxes. So everything that's left, I'm willing to share. And so they did the math, and now their goal, not mine, is to have the existing divisions create $1 million of net profit per month by 2018. Is that awesome?
That is really cool.
Thank you, Bob. Thanks for sharing that. Now, I wanted Bob to do that to stretch your mind prior to going into this terror barrier concept. Here's a case of a guy that was always doing something, didn't know how to transfer it. And what we really did was lay out the strategy of what you've been doing. So you went from being an unconscious competent to a conscious competent. You see, if you were a conscious competent before, you would have been able to share it with them, but you weren't doing it. And now you are doing it. Now you got help, but everybody needs help. There has never been anyone that I've ever heard about or read about in the history of the world that did anything of any consequence on their own. You need help. And it's when you understand that you need help and ask for it, that's when you start to make headway. That's another thing Matrix is about. It's sharing. Now, as Bob was explaining that, there's a sequel to this. He was praising Doug and Jacqueline for how much they've helped. But when I met Doug, he was running up against the terror barrier. And had he not gone through it, he wouldn't have been able to help you. I've asked Doug if he'd come up here for a minute. Where is he? Come on up here. Now, there's a real lesson in this. And when I lay this down afterwards, you're going to see the depth in it, because there is. How you doing, Doug? Good, you? Doug, I want you to explain what happened when we met. Doug has been working with the consultants now for a year.
Yeah, it's over a year, yeah.
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 Doing a great job. But what happened prior to that?
Well, I was in the 13-month coaching program. I got in with Arash. 6 months in, I still didn't have any idea what I wanted to do. And I heard about this Thinking Results program. And so for 6 months, once a month, I'd have a call with Arash, and I'd ask all these questions. You know, how do I going to do this? How much money can I make? All these. I'm a real analytical guy, so I was so afraid to do it. I mean, I had this desire inside me. I wanted to work with Bob. I wanted to teach this information because it was changing me. And anyway, Arash was smart. He goes, I'm going to put Doug in a room in this little event. It was 14 people here in L.A., February 2014, and I went to that. And I got to know Bob, and I'm sitting on a stool, and he said, why don't you become a consultant with our company? I go, that sounds great. I'd love to do that. I didn't even know what that meant, but I'm in. And I go home. He said, come see me in Toronto, and we'll talk about working together. And so it wasn't until end of April, and I went down. I got a meeting with Bob Proctor. I got all these questions made up, 15 questions, and I send them to him in advance. And I get there. He's got them all printed off. He looks at the questions, and he crumbles it up, and he throws it in the garbage. He says, you know what your problem is? He says, you take too damn long to make decisions. Now, I didn't know that he had been talking to Arash for 6 months about me getting into this business, right? So anyway, so I was scared to death. I mean, I was excited, but I was scared, and I mean, I just didn't make decisions at all. I read Think and Grow Rich, and Hill said that indecision is one of at the top of the list of the 30 major causes of failure, and that was me. I mean, I was a successful guy in the mortgage business, but I was just deathly afraid. I wanted to do this, but I was scared.
What'd you do?
I made a decision. Actually,
How did you?
well, I sat in Bob's office. He said, make a damn decision. Now, I'll help you if you do what I tell you to do. Now, you got to do exactly what I tell you to do. I said, all right, Bob, here's my friggin' credit card. When Arash was on his way to the airport, and Bob calls him up and said, Arash, where are you? He said, get to a computer and sign this guy up. And so I gave him my credit card. And he said, now, here's what I want you to do. Go sign up 10 people. And so he spent 5 minutes, and he had this brochure, that It's Time brochure you got, and the 8 questions. He goes, here's how I want you to do it. Took 5 minutes. He said, now, off you go and go get 10 clients. And so I said, okay. And so away I went, and I got 2. And then I didn't get any more. He goes, what the hell are you doing? I said, well, I said, I got 2. He goes, well, how come you didn't get any more? I said, well, I stopped doing what you told me to do. I changed my approach. And anyway, I went back to that approach, and I started to sign people up. So I started in May of 2014. And then I had a goal to be a leading consultant, leading other consultants. I said, I'm going to be the Roger Bannister of TIR and show people how to make $1 million. I wrote that on my goal card, and then by September, I got the international sales director position. And things were just taken off for me. As soon as I made a decision, everything started to line up. And that's the ticket, right? All you got to do is nothing happens till you make a decision. And as soon as I made a decision, everything started to click.
See, if you hadn't have made a decision, some of the things that Bob was talking about probably wouldn't have happened.
I wouldn't have met him. I wouldn't be working
He
with
wouldn't
him.
have met you.
Right.
You wouldn't have been working with his people.
That's right.
You wouldn't have been working with Jacqueline. Jacqueline wouldn't have been working with you. Jacqueline and you wouldn't have been working with him. There's a train of causation. Every cause has an effect. Every effect has a cause. It's a train of causation. And when you can start to track it, you see phenomenal things happening. You've got to pay attention to these things. I have been studying these people that Hill talked about for 55 years. It is so obvious once you start paying attention. I like the way Tony Robbins puts it. Success leaves tracks. It does. This guy's done a phenomenal job, not just for himself, but for a whole lot of people. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, I probably could. Sandy? She's hiding again.
Yes.
Come here. Visit with your table for a minute. Did you announce they were getting a program?
Yeah.
They know they are?
You can tell me in.
Do you want to make a $20,000 donation to his Patriot Promise?
Sure.
We just held a board meeting, Bob. Sandy will give you $20,000. Okay? Thank you. Wish she was that generous with me. Okay, let's take a look here. Now watch this. Watch this as it builds. There's your conscious mind. That's the part of you that thinks. That's where your dreams come from. You turn the dreams over to the subjective mind. When you do that, you stir emotions that are in every cell of your body, and that causes you to act. When you act, the universe reacts. And when the reaction and the action come together, that alters the conditions, the circumstance, and environment in your life. Now, we call that the results. The action, there's your attraction. The traction is the universe reacting. It does the only thing it can do. It operates by law. It attracts to you what you're in harmony with. You're attracted to what you're in harmony with. Now that is an important visual there. It's very important because that is the creative process that you're following in your life, regardless of whether the results are good or bad. That's exactly what's happening. And we must understand that. Now let's look here for a moment. The X represents the paradigm. The X conditioning represents the subconscious conditioning. As you're watching this from home, I would recommend you take a pen and a piece of paper and mark it down. And play it over again as we go through it. It's important that you burn this into your mind. Now, this came about, what I'm going to show you, as a result of a person asking me a question. He asked me if I would help him. I'm going back a few years.
So I said, well, I will if I can. I met him in a Ramada Hotel on Dixie Road in Toronto. I can still see me doing this. And when we talked, I was trying to explain what was happening. So I said, well, look at it this way. And I took a napkin that was on the table, a paper napkin. There's been many deals struck on napkins in hotels. Well, that's where this came from. Now, that X controls your vibration. There's a power flowing into your consciousness, and you build thoughts out of it, and you will build X-type thoughts. Because X-type thoughts are involved with the vibration you're in. So they're in harmony. That's what you call comfort. That's the comfort zone. You think thoughts that are in harmonious vibration with you. That sets up the action and you get X-type results. Now, X is the unknown factor. So it'll work for every person in this room. I don't care what kind of results you're getting. Now, this is a process that's being explained here. Here's the second phase of the prospect, or the concept. The first one I refer to as bondage. That is where most people spend their life, right there. And they very rarely change much in their life. Now, some people live a long time like this. I lived like this till I was 26, and then I broke away. Wasn't easy, but I did. Now, here's the second phase. An idea from outside will come in, a why idea. The why idea is not in harmony with the X-type conditioning. However, as long as you keep it in your consciousness, everything's cool. Nothing happens. So you can sit and you can talk to somebody about it and you can think about it, and it may be, I think I'll move to another country. I was talking to a lady over here from Greece who now lives in Dubai. That's another country. Was it a scary move when you first moved? It was a scary move, but you moved. When I was on the fire department, that was the best job I'd ever had. I went from working 48 hours a week, 6 days a week, and 1 week out of the month, 7 days, working in a service station, hard, cold work. I went on the fire department, I doubled my income, and I was only working 7 days and 7 nights a month. And when I worked at night, we'd go in at 6 at night till 8 in the morning, or you go in at 8 in the morning till 6 at night. When we'd go in at 6 at night, we would go out to the kitchen, make something to eat. We'd make our bed and draw our sheets and make our bed and watch TV or play cards or darts for a little while, and then we'd go to bed. We'd get up and go home. It was in a slow haul. It was a real imposition. If anybody started a fire in the middle of the night, we usually sleep all night. I got to the point, I was doing some work on the side, I was earning more money in a month than the chief was earning in a year. Now at that time, this is way back in 1960, 61, the chief was earning $11,200 a year. And there's only one chief. And I knew I'd never be chief. But I got to the point where I was earning $11,200 a month. And you know something? I was afraid to quit. Because my paradigm said there's security in a job. Did I entertain the idea of quitting? Oh, yeah, I did. I thought about it. I thought about it a lot. I talk about it. But every time I start to get serious about it, it caused so much discomfort I'd stop. See, you can have the idea about starting that company, about starting that new division, about spending all that money on this. You can entertain these thoughts. Many of you have entertained thoughts in here this weekend. I think I might do that. I think I'll find out more about that. Now, if the paradigm's in charge, it will con you right and left. You talk about a con artist, the paradigm's a master. And the paradigm talks to you. It talks to you. And you answer it. You talk to yourself. Now, you may be sitting there, I don't talk to myself. That's the way this works. But you will never execute the idea if you don't impress it upon the subconscious mind. Now look at what happens here. This is the terror barrier.
Do you remember I said on the negative side, it goes from doubt to fear to anxiety? Well, understand, it just doesn't go from doubt to fear to anxiety. I can't say how fast it goes. Watch. You impress that why, and whoo! A terror barrier comes flying up. Worried, fear, and anxiety strike, and whoa! Right back into bondage. That was so scary, I don't want to ever go back there again. You go to make a move, and you step right back. You see, when Doug came in to talk to me, he had a long list of questions. I knew exactly what it was. If I answered all those questions, he'd come up with another long list. That was the paradigm that was talking to me. It wasn't his intellect at all. That's what the paradigm will do. It keeps causing you to ask questions, ask questions, ask questions, ask questions, and you never get out of it. How many catch themselves doing that? Everybody. Isn't that interesting? Well, you see, when you impress that idea upon your subconscious mind, all hell breaks loose. There is this imaginary terror barrier, and you hit it and you bounce off it, and it's very real. You could get sick to your stomach. Worry, fear, and anxiety strike just like lightning, and you bounce off that terror barrier, and you go right back to bondage. Well, I may not have much on this job, but at least I know what I'm getting. Bondage is where you play it safe. Did you ever hear when you're a kid, it's better to be safe than sorry? That isn't true. That's not true at all. That's a lie. But people believe it. Now look it. Are we going to let the terror barrier stop us? Faith based on understanding is the key to freedom. I love the way Joseph Campbell put it. He said, the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. You have to understand what it is that's scaring the daylights out of you. It's an imaginary idea. It's a dumb idea. Let's suppose you do fail. Who cares? You failed lots of times anyway. Everybody here has failed often. Your life didn't come to an end. The whole world didn't stop. Failing's a natural part of winning. Are we going to stay on the safe side of the terror barrier? You're not going to enjoy much of a life if you do. You got to make up your mind. You're going to go right through that sucker, just bing. Now, when you do, you step out and you act. Do you eliminate the fear? Hell no. What's causing the fear? The conditioning is still there, and you're impressing the why idea. That sets up a conflicting vibration inside. That's what's causing the turmoil. But if you understand that's what's causing the turmoil, you can face it, you can live with it, and you can keep going. And it's through repetition of getting emotionally involved that finally the X is gone. And you're comfortable now in the new role. Do you know what that means? The Y now has become the new X. And you start all over again. Ever notice that, Gabe? It's strange, isn't it? God, you beat the boat, and now there's something else that's there tugging at you. You thought once you got past that boat, everything would be clear sailing. Now you're going for the condo. Well, that's the way this works. You got to go through it. You got to step out and take it. You got to make it happen. And when you do, it's scary. But boy, do you ever like yourself for doing it. Now, let's look here for a moment. There's the mind and the body. There's your senses. There's a power flowing into your consciousness. You build an image. You've got the image. You're doing exactly what the books tell you to do. Write it out. Present tense. Build the concept. There's a paradigm. Causes the material medium to act. And what happens? The image fixed in your conscious mind controls your vibration, and your vibration controls what you attract. The image fixed in your subconscious mind controls your vibration. You see, your results are not what you imaged. Why? Well, let's look at it. The viruses must be eliminated. What are the viruses? That's the layers of conditioning before your new image can move into form. You've got to eliminate them. Just hearing it here in the seminar is not going to cut it. Now turn over to page 151. We're talking here about efficient action. You must use your thought as I have directed in the previous chapters. You must begin to do what you can do where you are, and you must do all you can do where you are. You can advance only by being larger than your present place. You will not become larger than your present place when you leave undone any of the work pertaining to that place. The world is advanced only by those who more than fill their present places. This is very basic, but it's very misunderstood by the masses, and you can tell by the results the masses get. You've got to more than fill your present place. You know, I read in here when I first started, it stuck with me because it seemed so wrong. He said, you'll never be paid for more than you're doing if you're not prepared to do more than you're being paid for. God, I didn't understand that. You will never be paid for more than you're doing if you're not prepared to do more than you're being paid for. Now, keep in mind, I was dealing with a fairly shallow level of awareness at that time, and I just couldn't figure that out. How can you do more than you're being paid for if you're not willing to do more than you're paid for? You'll never be paid for more. None of it made sense. But we know now it makes all kinds of sense, and that's what he's talking about here. Take a few minutes now at the table and go over this. Read the pages. Back to page 136.
What is lost if it's not
All right? Hello, hello. Okay, now let's watch this for a moment. You see the problem there? Now let's take a look at the solution to the problem. There's mind, and your senses. And the power is flowing into the consciousness. It flows to and through you. It never stops. In your conscious mind, you build the image of the good that you desire. But keep in mind, you're also a person that's operating with an understanding of how the mind functions and how paradigms control us. Or I should say, can control us. The subconscious mind is the emotional mind. We've got to set the paradigm aside. We've got to override it and get emotionally involved with the good we desire. When that happens, you move into the vibration and you set up a whole new series of actions. The image you impress upon your subconscious mind controls your vibration, and your vibration controls what you attract. You've got to realize that that paradigm is like a demon in there. It's been there since you first drew breath. It's been passed from one generation to the next. Many of the things you believe and many of the ideas that are controlling you, your great-great-great-grandparents originated in a time and at a place that is so far removed from the world we live in, it doesn't make any sense at all. But yet, we still let it control us. This is 2016. Women are still earning about 70% of men for doing the same thing. If I graduated an electrical engineer and Wendy graduated as an electrical engineer, we both got the same marks, went to the same school, we come out into the marketplace, odds are I'm going to get 30% more than her because she's a female. Now, there isn't a person in this room that's in their right mind that would agree with that. There isn't one person here that would say that that is just, but it exists. It's real. I remember when I opened an office in England, I made up my mind I was going to pay the staff exactly the same as I was paying them in Canada. So therefore, they were going to earn a lot more. We hired a young lady, Jackie. She was 19. And I'm going to tell you, she was good. She was phenomenal. I couldn't get over how she was so good in an office. At 19, she didn't have that much experience. We were paying her more money than her dad was earning, who was a mechanic at Job's Dairy in Sunbury, many, many years. Her dad was really upset. No, it's true. They would have junior and senior. And no one could understand why we would pay somebody 19 the amount of money we were paying her. They could see it if maybe she was 39, but not 19. Now, I would imagine there's places still like that there. Why? It was her age. Your age should have nothing to do with what you earn. It's your competence. If you're incompetent at 39, you shouldn't earn very much if you get a job at all. If you're super competent at 17, 19, you should earn what you're worth. No, according to your age. Well, you see, we've got to start to understand what's going on inside of us. Now, I'm going to tell you, you know how to do an awful lot better than you knew on Friday when you came here. There is absolutely no question about it. You have an understanding of what's going on when you start to doubt yourself. It's the paradigm trying to take control of your conscious mind. Talk to it like a person. Say, get the hell out of here. No, get super serious about it. Just as I said that, I'm looking down, I'm looking right at Phil Goldfein. I'm going to tell you, he has explained problems. If he explained them to almost anybody, they'd say, you're in trouble. And I'd say, don't even think about it. That's not going to happen. Here, let's think of this. Write this down. And he would do exactly what I told him, and exactly what I suggested would happen. If you hold an image and you internalize it, that image must manifest in form. It must. You know all the bad things you see happening to a lot of people? They've originated the idea in their mind. Now, there's a lot of material in this book. There's some real good questions. There's some great exercises. You have a pretty respectable understanding of how this works. I want to recommend that you never stop studying this. Never. We had a meeting in the company here some time ago, and we decided we'd do a seminar in April, and we decided we'd base it on 4 books. Think and Grow Rich, The Science of Getting Rich, You Were Born Rich, and Your Invisible Power. We're going to be digging into parts of those books that I've been reading and putting together for a long, long time. That is going to be a very powerful program, and it will definitely sell out. If you're here on streaming, there's a number. Clap if you're in the last streaming and you're here. Swing your camera around. Swing your camera around so you can see them. Okay, thanks. Thanks, Chris. Now, those people who were in the streaming at the last seminar, they're here. You want to get here in April, get in this energy. It is really good. I want to suggest you make a decision. You're going to be very, very disciplined with yourself. Not to change your whole life. Change a couple of things. Change a couple of things and make those couple of things lead to something very big. Bob Taylor was telling you what he's doing with Patriot Promise. That is huge. It is absolutely huge. It's the kind of an idea you think, how could a guy tackle something so big? Well, everything that's ever been done was started out by one idea in one person's mind. Doesn't matter what it is. Cynthia Kersey, I don't know what motivated her to go off to Africa to a women's conference. She didn't even know what the hell they were going to do there. But she was guided there, and she made up her mind there was something wrong, and she was going to fix it. Now, what has happened since then has been enormous. And what's going to happen from this point on, God only knows, but it's going to be big. Don't shy away from the thing you want to do. Muster up the courage to step out and do it. Don't back down. So you lose the money. You've lost money in the past anyway. You spend all kinds of money on stuff that isn't any good. Don't worry about losing the money. Don't worry about wasting the time. Don't even entertain that thought. Just dig in and get out there and really make it happen. I want to thank all the consultants that have come here, and you have a beautiful surprise in store for you that you will be hearing about very shortly, because there's tremendous thrust going into that department, and your business is going to benefit enormously. I want to thank you for all you've done. Where's Gina? Well, there you are. Cece's in black in front of a black curtain. I want you to give this lady a hand. She really puts all this together. Let's bring Sandy back up here. Sandy, come on up here. We're going to bring the staff up first and then the pictures. Okay, tell them that.
Good seminar.
First of all, big round of applause for Bob and Sandy. Seriously.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. You did a good job, Bob.
Thank you.
You gonna take that off?
You know, it really does take a village. We have so many people on our staff who help us. Some of them are here, some of them are on live chat streaming, some of them are at home working. So to all of them, thank you. However, to all of our staff who are here, let's have you come up on stage. I think our camera people will need to stay where they are, but to all the staff and volunteers who have helped us this weekend, I'd like to see you on stage. To our camera crew, our AV team, Becca and Josh at the back, you guys have done an incredible job. PSAV, the hotel staff who have served us this weekend and the last few days, thank you very much. Look at them all. Come on up here. Give me a hand. Thank you so much. Each of you contributes in a way that is so important to the whole, and this wouldn't happen without every single one of you, so thank you very much. We have had a ball here this weekend serving you. Thank you for giving us that opportunity and that pleasure. We really enjoy it. We were going to do picture taking with Bob, and we decided not to. However, Bob quickly corrected me and said, yes, I am going to take pictures. That said, we are very protective of our Bob, and he has been giving to you for the last 3 days. I ask that you give him some energy and some respect when you come up. We're going to get this done really quickly so he can get a little bit of rest tonight because he's got a full day tomorrow, filming on Tuesday and Wednesday. So we're going to take some pictures. It's going to go really, really quickly with your help. When you come up, you'll stand between Bob and Sandy. You don't need to shake your hands. They know how much you've appreciated this seminar. So I'd like to get this done quickly, and otherwise we are going to nix it, however.
Did you ever get a picture taken when you were running? Let the race begin.
Okay, and we're going to collect your name tags as you come up to the stage. So if you can line up to the right of the stage, please.